Okay, this is going to sound absolutely backwards, but stick with me. The most interesting person at any party barely talks. I'm serious. There's this guy who spent an entire dinner asking a botanist about plants. Literally just roses and soil and photosynthesis or whatever. 3 hours of plant chat. End of the night, the botanist tells everyone this guy is the most fascinating conversationalist he's ever met. The guy said almost nothing about himself. His name is Dale Carnegie, and he accidentally discovered a psychological cheat code that makes people obsessed with you and is 10 times more powerful in 2025 than it was in 1936. Why? Because while everyone else is yapping, interrupting, and doom scrolling, you're about to become magnetic by doing the exact opposite. Look, I know what you're thinking. Just listen, that's the secret, revolutionary stuff there, genius. But no, not the fake listening you're doing right now. Not the, oh yeah, totally, while you plan your next story. I'm talking about a specific type of listening Carnegie broke down into an actual system. And when you nail it, people will literally fight to spend time with you. Here's the wild part. This works everywhere. Dating, check. Job interviews, check. Making friends in a new city, check. Getting your team to actually respect you, absolutely. And the best part? Almost nobody does this anymore, which means you're about to have an unfair advantage.
First, let's talk about what everyone gets catastrophically wrong about conversation. Carnegie noticed something brutal about human nature. We are obsessed with ourselves. Quick test. When you see a group photo, whose face do you scan for first? Yours. When someone tells you about their weekend, what's your brain actually doing? Loading up your weekend story like a gun. At dinner, when someone's talking, where's your attention? Honestly. Probably wondering if there's spinach in your teeth or when you can check your phone. This isn't a character flaw. We all do this. It's just biology. But here's where it gets messy. Carnegie watched a woman at a dinner party talk for 4 straight hours. Her travels, her opinions, her accomplishments. Basically, a one-woman TED Talk nobody signed up for. At the end, she complained to the host about how boring everyone was. And the other guests said the exact same thing about her. See the problem? When everyone's trying to be interesting, nobody feels interesting. It's like a room full of people screaming into megaphones, confused by nobody's listening. Carnegie called these conversational collisions. You're not connecting, you're just taking turns performing monologues. But here's where your entire social life is about to change. If everyone wants to talk about themselves and nobody is actually listening, then the person who learns to really listen becomes the rarest, most valuable person in any room. Carnegie's big insight: if you want to be interesting, be interested. Let me say that again because it's so simple it sounds fake. If you want to be interesting, be interested. He said you can make more friends in 2 months by being genuinely interested in people than in 2 years trying to get people interested in you. Think about that. Most people spend their entire lives trying to get attention, dressing for it, name-dropping, telling impressive stories, and it barely works. But flip the script. Give someone your complete, undivided attention. Magic. Here's the psychology. When you really listen to someone, you're communicating something profound without saying a word. You matter. Your thoughts matter. You're worth my time. In a world where everyone's competing for attention 24/7, this is like water in a desert.
Carnegie loved this story. A woman gets invited to dinner with Sigmund freaking Freud, one of the greatest minds of the century. She's panicking. What do I say? How do I impress him? What could I possibly contribute? But instead of trying to match his intellect, she just asked him about his recent trip. That's it. One simple question. Freud lit up, talked for an hour about his travels, his observations, the people he met. She mostly just listened, asked follow-ups, showed genuine curiosity. Later, Freud tells the host, quote, "She was a most interesting woman. She barely said anything. She just let him feel interesting." This is the pattern Carnegie saw everywhere. The people remembered as the best conversationalists were often those who said the least but listened the most. It's counterintuitive. It feels wrong, but it works like absolute magic. Okay, so listening is powerful, cool, but how do you actually do it? Because here's the thing. Most of us think we're already good listeners. We're not. Carnegie breaks down what real listening looks like, and it's way more active than you think. Number 1, be genuinely interested. This is the foundation. You cannot fake this long term. If you're pretending while thinking about lunch, people can tell. Your eyes glaze over, your sound robotic, your body language betrays you. Carnegie hammers the word genuinely because fake interest is worse than no interest. So how do you become genuinely interested? Start with this assumption. Every person has something interesting about them, some unique experience, perspective, or knowledge you don't have. Your job? Discover it. 2. Ask questions they'll enjoy answering. Don't interrogate, don't hit them with yes or no questions. Ask open-ended stuff about what lights them up, their work, hobbies, experiences, opinions on things they care about. Watch for the signals. When do their eyes brighten? When do they lean in? When do they start talking faster? That's the gold. Dig there. 3. Let them do most of the talking. Carnegie is specific here. Let them do a great deal of the talking. Not some, a great deal. This goes against every instinct. You want to contribute, you want to share your related story, you want to prove you're smart. Resist. Your moment will come, but it shouldn't dominate. 4. Talk in terms of their interests. If they're obsessed with photography, ask about photography. Just got back from a trip? Ask about the trip. Dealing with work drama? Ask about that. When you create space for people to talk about what matters to them, something remarkable happens. They associate those good feelings with you. You become someone they crave being around.
Okay, cool. But I need to advance my career. I need to make an impression, show what I'm capable of. Carnegie's got you. Story time. A salesman's been pitching a major client for months, getting nowhere. Finally, he tries something different. Instead of pitching his product, he asks the executive about his challenges, the competitive landscape, long-term vision, what keeps him up at night. The exec talks for over an hour. The salesman mostly listens and asks smart follow-ups. End of conversation? You know what? I like you. Let's do business. The salesman barely mentioned his product. Why did this work? He demonstrated something more valuable than features and benefits. He showed he understood the executive's world. He made him feel heard. That's what closed the deal. This works everywhere: sales, management, office politics. The leaders people follow are those who listen. The colleagues people enjoy are those who make them feel valued. The employees who get promoted often understand what their boss actually cares about because they listened. Modern example: networking events. Most people spam business cards and elevator pitches to anyone with a pulse. But the person who stands out? The one asking thoughtful questions, remembering details, making you feel like the most important person there. That's who gets the opportunities. Let's go deeper. Why does this work on a psychological level? Carnegie understood something confirmed by decades of research. We all have a fundamental need to feel important. Not in a shallow, egotistical way, but in the sense that our lives matter, our thoughts have value, our experiences are significant. Most people walk through life feeling somewhat invisible. They have thoughts nobody asks about, expertise nobody recognizes, stories nobody wants to hear. When you genuinely listen, you satisfy this deep psychological hunger. You're saying, without words, you're important. What you say matters to me. This is incredibly powerful. Carnegie calls it the principle of appreciation. Everyone craves appreciation. Almost nobody gets enough. When you listen attentively, you're giving appreciation for their thoughts, experiences, their very existence. And here's the beautiful part. This isn't manipulation. Carnegie is clear about that. This isn't fake flattery or pretending to care. It's recognizing a fundamental truth. Other people are interesting. Their lives are worth your attention. You just have to be curious enough to discover it. The people who struggle socially usually so focused on themselves they can't see the fascinating person standing right in front of them. Let's talk about how to absolutely sabotage your listening. Mistake 1, waiting to speak instead of listening. You know that moment when someone's talking and you're just counting down until you can jump in? They can tell. Your eyes betray you. Your body language screams, I'm not actually listening. Mistake 2, one-upping.
Someone shares a vacation, you immediately talk about your better vacation. They share a challenge, you share a bigger one. This isn't conversation, it's competition, and it's insufferable. Mistake 3, unsolicited advice. Huge! Someone shares a problem, you jump into fix-it mode. But often they don't want solutions, they want to be heard. They want validation. Save the advice unless they specifically ask. Mistake 4, phone checking. Carnegie didn't deal with smartphones, but this principle still applies. When you're in conversation, be there, not halfway there while scrolling Instagram. Fully present.
Here's how you start today. Challenge, in your next conversation, learn 3 genuinely interesting things about the other person. Not surface stuff like, where do you work? Real insights. What excites them? What challenges are they facing? What are they proud of? To get there, try these. The tell me more approach. When someone mentions something, don't just nod. Say, tell me more about that, or what was that like? Most people never get asked to expand. When you do, they'll share fascinating details. Remember and reference details. Someone mentioned last week their daughter had a recital. Ask how it went. Big project, follow up. This shows you weren't passively hearing words, you were actually listening. And then practice the pause. When someone finishes talking, count to 3 before responding. This ensures they're actually done because people often add gold after a pause and shows you're considering what they said, not just reacting. Ask why and how questions. These open up deeper conversation. Instead of, did you enjoy your trip? What made that trip meaningful for you? Instead of excited about your new role, how did you decide to make that move? Carnegie even kept notes about people's interests so he could ask good questions later. Manipulative? He'd say no. It's thoughtful. It shows you care enough to remember.
Does it still work? Are you kidding? It's more powerful than ever. We live in the age of constant distraction. Everyone's on their phones, broadcasting their lives, chasing followers, likes, validation. But here's what hasn't changed. People still crave genuine connection. They still want to feel heard. They still want to feel important. If anything, these needs are more intense because they're satisfied less often. Quick question. When's the last time someone put away their phone, looked you in the eyes, and asked a thoughtful question about your life? Not a robotic "how are you," but a real question showing they actually cared. Struggling to remember? Exactly. That's why Carnegie's principle is a superpower in 2025. In a world of shallow interactions and divided attention, deep listening is rare. The person who can have a conversation without checking their phone every 30 seconds stands out. The person who asks follow-ups instead of making everything about themselves, memorable. The person who makes you feel heard in a world of noise, that's someone people want around. Here's what Carnegie figured out a century ago. The secret to being interesting is to be interested. The way to win friends and influence people isn't to talk more cleverly or more loudly. It's to make others feel important by genuinely listening. This isn't a trick. It's a fundamental shift in how you approach human interaction. Instead of, what can I get from this person or how can I impress them, you ask, what can I learn from this person? How can I make them feel valued? When you make that shift, everything changes. People are drawn to you because being around you feels good. They feel seen, heard, important. And they associate those feelings with you. The beautiful irony? By focusing less on yourself, you become more successful. By talking less, you become more interesting. By listening more, you become more influential. Carnegie's principle has stood the test of time because it's based on something timeless, human nature. We all want to be heard. We all want to matter. And the person who satisfies that need in others will never lack for friends, opportunities, or influence. So, here's your mission. In your next conversation, today, right now, practice real listening. Ask good questions. Be genuinely curious. Let them do most of the talking. See what happens. I think you'll be shocked at how this simple shift changes everything. Because in a world where everyone's talking, the person who listens holds all the cards.
If this changed how you think about conversation, smash that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into timeless wisdom. And drop a comment. What's one question you could ask someone today to really understand them better? I'm genuinely curious what you come up with. I'll be in the comments.